Hello and welcome to another update video about Cardano. We are going to take a look at the charts of Cardano, but also of Bitcoin, because no technical analysis for Cardano, I think, is complete without taking at least a brief look at the Bitcoin chart, because it can determine the further moves of the Cardano price as well. I mean, the Cardano chart can look very good, but if then a major downtrend or major breakout to the downside happens on the Bitcoin chart, I think it could become more difficult for Cardano. That's why we always take a quick look at the Bitcoin chart. And as always, we start with Bitcoin briefly. There are a few things happening here that are worth pointing out. So let's take a look and let's start with the 1 hour chart. What we saw previously is that we were in this ascending wedge, the orange lines, and we are currently back into this ascending wedge, a bearish pattern. We broke out to the downside, now we're back in the game, but essentially it means the ascending wedge is a bearish pattern. So it could mean, as long as we're in that, I'm not too happy. We need to break out to the upside. So I said in yesterday's video, if we were here yesterday, down here at the support line, I said that this ascending wedge can help us to climb to the 50k now, or the 52 even, something like that, between 50 and 52. So if we manage to get there, we'll probably bounce off the top here, or we'll have a breakout. It's a bearish pattern essentially, so we need to be careful. It indicates a bearish reversal. We need to be very careful here. And I just want to mention, I don't know if this will be the reversal, but there could be one, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this ascending wedge. We wouldn't be, because yes, people say it's just a chart pattern, but ascending wedges are pretty accurate, and these chart patterns happen for a reason. They're not just there for magic. They happen for a reason, and they happen for a reason because essentially there are a lot of buyers, there are a lot of sellers, and the buyers don't buy enough. So that is why the price is losing momentum. We can see that the price is losing momentum by taking a look at the RSI. We are now down here again, still above the 50 of the RSI. As long as we're over 50, it means we are sort of bullish, but it's losing momentum definitely. So that is worth pointing out. On the 1 hour, I won't have a look at the other indicators or oscillators, but it is important to take a look at. And we're now sort of again at a make or break point only on the hourly chart, but we are now just touching the 20-day moving average. I believe, because we did that before, I hope that we will move to the upside further, now to the 50k. And the reason for that is, even though we are in the red on the MACD, I just hope that this 20-day support, that 20-day moving average, the blue line here, will provide support, which could then fuel another move to the upside. What we need to see is, that we are now heading up. If we break below the 20-day, we will get to the 50-day moving average at around 47,000. This is also the lower support level of the ascending wedge. I think that would be the next support level. Hope we don't get there, because I'd really like us to see climbing up and maybe even break the resistance level here at 51. Pretty much when we get there will be like probably between 50 and 52,000. So it will be higher than 50. Climb up to the 4 hour chart, the next meaningful time frame. See something similar. However, we can see on the 4 hour chart that we are losing momentum even clearer. So on the 1 hour, however, it has just turned green. So hopefully this will help us to the upside. And let's have a look at the daily before we go to the Cardano price. Again, we can now see that it's actually not a broadening triangle, it's actually a broadening wedge that we're in, the red one. So two things here. We are in this ascending wedge, which is a bearish pattern. Then we moved briefly into this broadening triangle, because what happened was we stepped out of the ascending wedge. So we actually broke to the downside, but then a broadening triangle formed, or broadening wedge, which is at a different angle, and it's broadening. So it means that there is even more insecurity, and it's slightly more bearish because the angle is more to the downside. It's not that steep to the upside. And what happens here is that the upswings and there are higher highs and less and still higher lows, but the lows are at a less steep angle. And it just means if we have this higher and higher volatility, it means that buyers are very strong, but also that sellers are very strong, okay? So it just means that potentially now, we're not sure if we already broke out of the, we're currently back into the ascending wedge, but it could also mean if we, for example, now touch these lines here, the resistance levels at 51,000, you know, if we break down again, and we could break down outside of the ascending wedge again, and then we could touch the broadening wedge here. Both are bearish patterns, and I can't, you know, this is what happens, this movement and potentially a move to the downside. We need to be aware of that. That's why I want to point it out on this channel. It's not necessarily all to the moon, because everything can always happen. I just want to point you out that these are proper patterns. So bear them in mind, you know, as soon as we break below this here, we could move down, you know, as soon as we break down that, we could move to the 50-day moving average, which is around $40,000, maybe a little bit lower than that. So guys, be aware of that. Normally, when breakouts out of the broadening wedges happen to the downside, they happen with quite a lot of momentum. Yeah, because bears are pretty strong, bulls as well, so buyers as well, but the sellers are very strong as well. So that could happen, guys. And we have seen really a lot of insecurity here. I mean, look, in the last few weeks, we've really moved up very quickly. However, we are now losing really the momentum. You can clearly see that on the chart, and that's just fact. So we want to be aware of that. Cardano looking again good at the moment, because we already saw the 246. So we were briefly below the all-time high. We're now above the all-time high again, well, the old all-time high. This point here forms the all-time high, the new all-time high at pretty much 257. So we are starting with the 1 hour chart, and then we're climbing our way up to the 4 hour, and then the more meaningful daily, and maybe even the weekly. So here on the 1 hour chart, what's going to happen in the next few hours? Well, looking good at the moment, because we are above the 20-day moving average again. Nice, looks good. What we need to be aware of, hopefully we won't get a head and shoulders forming here. So the head basically sticking out here. If we now make a reversal, that could be a head and shoulders. And if we then drop below the neckline, it's not a very clear one, but it could be one. And then we could drop down further. So that could be, if we drop below 240, that could be indicate a strong move to the downside to the 50-day moving average here. Otherwise, I can't really see a clear pattern forming here. So I can't, but maybe on the 4 hour. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. That's more meaningful anyway. On the 4 hour chart here, we are now pretty much, yeah, we can see we're moving up. Nice uptrend here. What, again, we'd like to see is a higher high now on the 4 hour chart. So we would need to get above the the new all-time high. So I want to be above that. If we're not, we are losing momentum again here as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I say there is a bearish pattern forming somewhere, it doesn't mean that we suddenly get into the bear market, right? Bearish pattern just means that there could be a move to the downside. So on this channel, we track movements, we track changes. I'm not really giving signals here, but I wanna make you aware of things that could happen. So basically you are prepared, okay? So what we want to see is that these candles now climb up, because otherwise what will happen, we could have a triangle forming, and a triangle is normally a trend continuation pattern, which then is, trend continuation pattern, even if we see a triangle, actually means that we are going to move to the upside, most likely. So for example, we could have something like that forming, but we need a few more touches for that. So that's one angle of the triangle, and then we could have something here. So what that indicates is that we could trade in this range here. So we could now, we probably touched it already here at 253 just now, or 4 hours, within the last 4 hours. Now we could move to 245 again, move up again, and then there might be a breakout to the upside, because again, a triangle, all that is, a symmetrical triangle, is just a trend continuation pattern. It's neither bearish or bullish. So we saw that here. Yeah, you can see it down here. We have had that before. So we had a triangle formation forming, and then we broke actually to the downside briefly, but touched the 20-day moving average, and then it broke out to the upside. So with these triangles, we always need to be aware of the potential of false breakouts. So the 20-day moving average is quite far away from it at the moment on the 4-hour chart, because the price moved up really quickly. So what could happen again? Move down, move up. We could actually move down to 242 again. We already were at 240 in the last 4 hours. That's not necessarily a problem because we have this triangle forming. I want to see that this really is the top, the 254 at the moment, because then we could this could really be validated. That's what I can see here now. If on the 4-hour, a triangle, right? So that means in the next, well, probably in the today, if that is a true pattern, we could see a move to the downside, 245, yeah, and then move to the upside again, 250, and then there might be a breakout somewhere, hopefully to the upside. And if we take a look at the momentum, you know, are we going to see a move to the upside potentially? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the RSI. RSI currently not yet, the orange line here, not yet in overbought territory. There is a bit of room to the upside, which is nice. So there is room to the upside. MACD bullish, losing momentum a little bit, but still bullish. And what we can also see, the I want to see that turning green. That is the awesome oscillator. This has always given really good indicators. I mean, don't get me wrong, even if it's red at the moment, it's not a problem, because we had that before. It was turning red and then turning green again. Normally when it turns green and you see a couple of candles, it is bullish. And whenever that happens, so example, when it's red and then we see a reversal and you see 2 candles here, or 2 bars that are green at least, that could be a buy signal. And I don't want to mention buy signal because then where people ask, you know, do you recommend buying now? But it certainly indicates that we could see an upswing. So we had that here, a couple of candles here. It was going red, a couple of green bars here, and then we saw an upswing. And then, yeah, it was turning red again. So whenever you see 2 of these bars, it could indicate a reversal. Not always, so you always need to take into account moving average. And I said in a previous video, this awesome oscillator, it can give false signals, but that is why it is so important to work together with moving averages. And moving averages tell us if we're in an uptrend. We currently are, because we are above all moving averages. Well, at least above 20, 50 and 200. For me, they are the most meaningful ones. So let's watch what the triangle is doing. My prediction is that it is a it's a, you know, a trend continuation pattern. That's what it is generally looked at, and it seems like this might happen. This is on the daily, not 100% accurate, but well, actually it is looking really like a triangle also on the daily chart. So yeah, I guess within the next, well, within today, we will see a breakout, and hopefully to the upside, because then we can see a validation of that pattern. Also, I mean, the whole sentiment before this, before the rollout of the Alonso mainnet really shows that we should be in a bullish momentum. Really nice to see that going up. And oops, on the daily, on the weekly, we made that bearish cross anyway of the MACD. So we can see that down here, very small. I won't make it larger now because it's just a lot of moving around. But we had a bullish cross on the MACD this week on the weekly, which really indicates a bullish move. Last time we saw that on the weekly, we moved to a new all-time highs. I mean, we are there already, but the last time that happened, we saw a longer term uptrend. I would like to have a look quickly at what we did in the last, before the last hard fork. So let's have a look at a few 4-hour ones. Very interesting just to see, you know, did that work pretty similarly? And a bit hard to see now, make it a bit smaller maybe. So these are the, no, where am I? Here. These are the moves before the last hard fork, and the last hard fork took place on the 1st of March. And I just want to remind you that there will always be, we might have seen that first pump here already. Now we might be in the second pump. And as you can clearly see, there will always be reversals. There will always be reversals, and don't get too confused about them. Don't get frustrated. This is normal and healthy, because in an uptrend you will always have that volatility, you will always have prices go down again, and we can see that the 50-day moving average provided really good support here all the time. So that is something to look at. And only after the hard fork the price went below the 20 and the 50-day moving average, but it stayed above the 200-day moving average since then for a long time. So the 50-day is certainly something to look out for. The shorter term moving average are less important than the longer term moving averages for in terms of trend. So obviously we're currently in a similar uptrend here as we did back then, and as you can see as well, you know, there are always moves to the downside. So if we have these corrections, don't be too negative about them. These can take place. You know, this, for example, we had a local high here, a swing high on the 11th of Feb, and then the price actually went down to, and that the price was at the time nearly $1. So there was a resistance level as well, a psychological one, but then from $1 we moved down to 69 cents. So it is really something that can happen, and even after that we saw a huge pump. So things can always happen anytime. And I just want to remind you that it's not all, you know, catastrophe when we see prices drop. And for example, what could happen with Bitcoin breaking out to the downside of this broadening triangle, for example, this will likely have a negative impact short term on the Cardano price as well. And so don't worry too much. Really, again, make or break point here for Cardano. Let's hope we break to the upside of this ascending triangle. That's what I think. But again, I'm not necessarily here to predict. I just want to track it. I just want to prepare you. I was right a few times now, but bear in mind always, you know, I can always be wrong. You know, I'm not, honestly, I have some experience with technical analysis, and I do analysis every day in my job. Not this type of analysis, but I'm quite good with data. But still, that doesn't mean I need to be right all the time. So I know I can be wrong. And this is really just to predict, not to predict things, but to prepare you and to prepare myself. I like to stick very close to prices and price moves. So it is very important if you invested, because Cardano is my biggest holding. All right, so hopefully you liked the video. If you did, please smash the like button. And if you want to follow me on this crypto journey, please subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.